Dave is not going to wear that bunny suit. Just not going to wear those bunny pajamas.
Not even when Aunt Clara comes over. Okay? So just putting that out there right now.
That's a shame. I want to see you in that bunny suit.
Yeah. That would be Dave dressing provocatively.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, here's the thing. You wouldn't even have to pay me a lot of money to just like wear a bunny suit. If somebody was like, Dave, we're going to go to Porter Square today, which for those of you listening at home is a neighborhood in Somerville, Massachusetts. And Dave, we're going to Porter Square today. We want you to wear a pink bunny suit. And I'd be like, fucking bring it on.
Okay.
All I need is a latte and a slice of pizza and ready to go.
That's it?
So,
damn.
Yeah.
You wouldn't be worried about spilling that on your bunny suit?
It's not my bunny suit. You're the one to give me the fucking bunny suit. What do I care? You know?
Welcome to Spoiler Piece Theater, the podcast that doesn't give a shit about spoilers. We just want to talk about the movies. My name is Evan Crean. I'm co-chair of the Boston Online Film Critics Association and co-author of your 80s Movie Guide to Better Living.
And my name is Megan Kearns. I'm a contributor to Edge Media Network, and I too am a member of the Boston Online Film Critics Association.
And my name is Dave Riedel. I write sometimes for some places, and I'm a member of BAFCA also. Yeah,
yeah, you are.
Well, Happy New Year, listeners.
Yeah. I'm not sure if this is the best hangover cure for you, but, you do what you got to do.
Right on. Because, of course, it's the first day of 2021 when this will be airing. We thought, what better way to say goodbye to 2020 than to talk about our top films of 2020?
It was a shitty year, but there were some great movies.
That's great. Great movies, shit year. So we're going to talk about our top films. We're going to talk about our top 10s specifically. And I guess let's see where the conversation takes us.
Yes. Where will it take us?
Who knows?
I don't know, but I'm going to say that my list is better than yours. So anyway, moving on.
It probably is.
Yeah. Well, that's something interesting is often we know each other's lists. This year we don't. So we're winging it just a little bit, so to speak. Nope. But I think we should add some caveats to this that, at least for me personally, I'm going to be sharing the top 10 that I submitted in my ballot for BAFCA. And this is by no means a comprehensive list of all the movies that I love from this year. There were, in fact, many more movies that I wish could have made it into a top 10 or even a top 20 if I could do so. But I was limited to 10, and it was a tough choice. And some choices were strategic because this was a ballot and I was voting and I was trying to, raise up some other films that I might, so just know that these choices are not all inclusive and maybe fluid. Maybe my opinions change. We'll see.
And that is one of the best caveats I've ever heard.
That is a great caveat. Yeah, I like that.
Well, I know, Megan, you're always a little anxious, to put it lightly.
Oh, good God. Yeah. So just to get some insight on the fun-filled carnival happening in my mind, I have had a tremendous amount of anxiety over my list, over my ballot. I do every year, but this year was particularly dicey because I thought, I've seen more movies than I've ever seen ever in my life in this year. So I thought that it would make it easier. And no, actually that made it exponentially harder because this was an amazing kick-ass year for film. And so, I also could have had top 20, top 25, even a top 30 because there were so many films that I absolutely adored. So yes, this was painful. I had like a top 7 that was my solid top 7, and then everything else was kind of like tied for best. But anyway.
So just keep that in mind, listeners. Just keep all of those caveats in mind. This is, let's call it a point in time top 10, which I guess all year of lists are, but just take some of this with a grain of salt.
Yeah, because you could ask us next week and they could be all different. Who knows?
Well, one thing I wanted to throw out there is, so I've got my top 10 films, right? But in the other categories, which I won't get into too much, I have a lot of actors and whatever who are in movies that didn't make it into my top 10.
Same.
So that doesn't usually happen. I usually am consistent-ish across the across the spectrum, but not this year. But you'll find out.
I'm with you, Dave. I had a lot of films, same thing, that hit acting categories but weren't in my top 10.
Yeah. And I think that's also a function of us voting and getting an opportunity to spread the love around, because we see so many movies that we enjoy, so many performances or even elements of film that we enjoy, like great cinematography or a great score in a movie, which maybe we didn't think was perfect, but that one element just kicked ass.
Yeah, I mean, and I'll just say this real quick because I'm not going to talk about it much. Is Lovers Rock made best score and best cinematography for me, but it didn't make my it didn't place highly in my top 10. So, you know, what are you going to do?
You'll make decisions.
Yes, painful decisions that you agonize over, even though there are far more important problems going on.
Agonizing decisions. So I guess I could start and share my top 10 with you both.
Yes, let's kick off this part.
So number 1 was The Assistant, and this was a movie that just like stuck with me all year after I saw it. Just like I couldn't get out of my head, and so I feel like that was one of the easier choices on my list. My number 2 choice was Promising Young Woman, which I didn't see until a few weeks ago, but it really leapt up there in the ranks for me. And if you haven't listened to that episode, listeners, check it out. We got really into talking about Promising Young Woman. We had some great discussion. My number 3 film was Swallow, which was actually kind of in my number 2 spot for a while until Promising Young Woman kind of crept along. It was another movie that really stuck with me. Just, it haunted me.
Such a good film.
Yeah.
I completely forgot about Swallow.
It haunted me in a good way. It's just, I don't know. Visually, it's arresting. It's also just like the idea of Pica is like horrifying, and Pica as kind of like an outgrowth of being in a horrible like situation. It's just, I don't know. It spoke to me on a lot of levels, and just, yeah, so good. I think Shauna joked that this year my top 10 was women who have feelings about things. A lot of my list is films that were directed and or written by women or featured women as protagonists. So that's a theme you'll find in my top 10. So number 4 was St. Francis, which I believe we've talked about all these films on the show, which is why I'm not like going to go super deep into them. But that one was just so charming and like really poignant. And that was definitely why it, stuck around in my top 5. Number 5 was Carmen and Lola. This is another film we talked about, and another film that like stuck with me for a while. And just as I was going back and revisiting my, films that I'd seen over the years, like, damn, that was a really good movie that we saw.
Mm-hmm. I didn't put that on my list because I actually thought it came out last year, and that was why I didn't include it. So now I'm really sad that I didn't, because I loved it too.
Yeah. And you know what? I might have been wrong. It's possible that I was wrong. I was going off of the HBO Max release, which is why we ended up talking about it.
No, that's fair.
And so I considered it released this year.
I should have checked with you, because then I would have put it on my ballot too.
Nice. Love when that happens.
It's so good.
Yeah. Yeah, this is a little inside baseball, folks, but like I don't know. Sometimes it's dicey to determine what movies qualify. And like this year was especially challenging, given that like normally we'll base off of theatrical releases, like something that got some form of theatrical release either here in Boston area or in LA, New York, like a limited release. This year we kind of just had to just roll with the punches, like things that got released in theaters or drive-ins, or things that got released to streaming like Netflix or Amazon or Hulu or any of those platforms, or HBO Max, like Wonder Woman. Like these are just movies that, like this is how things work this year. And so we had to be a little bit more elastic in our criteria.
Elastic, good word. I mean, generally speaking, a good word, but a good word to describe that too.
So that was my top 5. Number 6 was Yes, God, Yes.
Oh, I forgot about Yes, God, Yes. Oh, that was so much fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
really funny, really poignant. And as I mentioned on the show, like it spoke to me because I was coming of age in the same time period and also like Catholic school kid. So I like really identified with a lot of the stuff in the movie. Even though it's, about a young woman instead of like a teenage guy. But it's just, there's a lot there to love. And I don't know, I just really enjoyed it. And so it was definitely one of the more, I'm going to say, fun movies in my top 10 because it's a little more lighthearted subject matter, especially compared to my number 7, which is Never, Rarely, Sometimes, Always, which was a movie that I haven't had a chance to talk about on the show because I saw it so late in the game. But it also really just, hit me like a freight train. And I thought it was an incredible film and was kicking myself for waiting so long to see it. But I'm really glad that I got a chance to see it before we did our voting.
I don't want to say I told you so, but I'm going to say it. I told you guys to see it.
You totally want to say you told him so. Come on.
I do love saying that.
Yeah. Well, you can, and you did. I feel vindicated. I love it. And so for my last few choices, I don't know, when I'm getting toward the end of my top 10, I try to throw some unconventional choices in there, especially my number like 9 or 10 spot, usually things that aren't necessarily showing up in other people's top 10s. Number 8 was Becky, which is a movie that just I really loved on a visceral level.
For sure.
It was just so much fun to watch, and it's bonkers and just totally intense and super violent, and I loved the hell out of it. Which is much like my number 9 choice, which is Anything for Jackson.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it really kind of went like full tilt into the last slots. With the exception, I think, of my number 10, which is, I don't know if it's a choice that you would expect, but it was a movie that I really liked. And I just feel like not really many people talked about it during the year, which was a film we covered on the show, A Call to Spy.
Oh, you like that. Obviously,
I did.
On your list.
Yeah, I thought it was a really solid film, and I really thought it was good. And I just didn't really hear people talking about it on their lists. And so I wanted to include it. It's written and directed by a woman, and I was like, this is a really good movie. I really thought it was great, and no one's talking about it, so I want to give it a shout out in my top 10.
Nice.
That is nice. I another movie, I haven't seen it obviously because what movie critic sees movies? But I had made a note to myself to see this, and I still haven't gotten around to it. So thank you for reminding me again.
Yes. I will definitely remind you again to see it because it's good. And it's super tense, and it's just a fascinating story. It really is. So yeah, that's my top 10. I kind of fired through them quickly, and there's tons of other movies that I would have loved to include in this list that I thought were good from this year. Like Nomadland, I thought was a great film, didn't make the top 10. Like The Five Bloods I really enjoyed, like Sound of Metal. Like there's so many movies that I saw this year that I thought were really good or had some element that was just, like Trial of Chicago 7 I enjoyed, but like, it's just, it didn't quite cut the top 10, or it didn't feel like it was, it's like not, it's the kind of movies that other people are already talking about and giving attention and love to. And I just feel like the ballot is such a great opportunity to call out films that might not otherwise get attention.
I agree. Yeah. The ballot is definitely for, in my estimation anyway, calling attention to things that otherwise don't get attention. I think that's one of the great things about being in BAFTA is we can just be like, I don't love that Snowpiercer won for us a few years ago, but at the same time, it's like, well, hey, we picked a Bong movie before it was cool. Hey! So... Yes.
We were in the Bong Hive before.
The Bong
I did not come up with that.
Oh, you didn't? Okay.
No, I wish I could take credit for that, but I did not.
Alrighty.
That was my top 10, and I would love to hear what yours were, because I've not seen them, or I don't remember seeing them, because the voting process was a blur for me. So let's hear it. Let's hear what your top 10s are.
Okay, I'm going next. So I'm going to go against the grain, and I like to do 10 to 1 because I like to build up suspense.
Okay.
I'm going to do that too, just so we're clear.
I love it. So I also gave you my caveats, and there are a couple of films in your list, Evan, that did not make my ballot. And I'm like, God damn it, those are amazing films, and I wish they had. But I tried to go with the films that resonated the most with me on an emotional level. And so that's where we are right now with these 10. So number 10, and I've talked about all of these on the show except for one. Number 10 is Bacurau, which is a Brazilian film. I absolutely loved it. It is incendiary. It is angry. It is all about anti-colonialism. It's violent. It's genre-defying. It is an incredibly intriguing film. And my number 9 pick is Relic.
Ooh, good one.
Thank you. I love emotional horror films, and this film is a great film, and I know we talked about it on the show too, but the ending, that ending has haunted me ever since we saw it, and it is just emotionally devastating. And it's, for me, it's rare. I love horror films, but it's rare that I see a film that destroys me and wrecks me on an emotional level equally with being, creepy or unnerving. And this just hit on both levels. And so it stayed with me.
Yeah.
Remind me, is that the Emily Mortimer movie?
Yes.
Yes, about her mother and dementia, and the house is decaying, and the house is an allegory for her actual dementia. Yeah.
Yeah. Movie was super fucking creepy.
It is. But just emotionally so powerful in the ending.
There were a lot of things. I mean, it was super creepy. There were a lot of things I didn't like about it, but I thought that ending really made up for a whole lot of the things I didn't like,
There we go. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, a strong ending can get you places, man. Didn't get to my top 10, but still.
It was definitely, would have been maybe top 15 or top 20. It was, I thought it was really great. The ending, especially.
Yeah. I mean, the other thing too, I should say, is I try to rewatch my top 20 for a second time, because sometimes things change. Sometimes things shift. When you see it a second time, you like it more, you like it less. And I wasn't able to do that with all of these, but Relic is one that has stuck with me. So I can't wait to watch it a second time and see if I feel the same. My number 8 pick is Miss Juneteenth, which I just love.
Good choice.
Thank you. I thought it was a lovely film. It's Nicole Beharie gives such a great performance as a single mother, and her daughter have just a really beautiful bond. And it's nice to see, a kind of sort of not really complicated mother-daughter relationship, but something that's obviously not perfect, but still very loving and supportive. And I really, really loved that. And it's great to see. I also think it's a really might make an interesting double feature with Minari, which is also an amazing film about kind of the American dream, or the struggle to attain the American dream. Because both of them are dealing with that in that same way, or in different ways rather, but still dealing with the core of that. My number 7. So now we're getting into my top 7, which I definitely feel very comfortable in and strongly about. My number 7, Sound of Metal.
Nice.
Because good God, I fucking love this film so much. It is so good. And this is another one that's haunted me, stayed with me. Riz Ahmed, his performance is one of my favorite performances of the year. The sound design, the visuals, the story, the writing, everything. Its depiction of addiction, the fact that it's so disabled people centered. I just loved it. I loved everything about it.
It's interesting that as a drummer, someone who's played drums since he was 6 years old, I won't tell you how many years that is that I've played, but it's a lot. And I still haven't seen that. And I think part of the reason is I think subconsciously, I haven't thought about it much. I think I might find it a little traumatizing to watch a musician losing his hearing and somebody who plays the same instrument I do. So, and because I really kind of lucky. I don't really have much hearing loss, and I didn't play with. Now I don't know what the reasons are for his, but I played without ear protection until about a decade ago. So I just got lucky.
Yeah, I'd say so.
Yeah. So please, Megan, continue.
If you can watch it, do, but definitely don't traumatize yourself.
Yeah. Well, I do want to watch it, and I've always liked Riz Ahmed. So I'm kind of surprised I'm surprised myself that I haven't gotten to it, but yeah.
He's just, I will watch him in pretty much anything because he is just such a chameleonic performer, and I love him, and he is so riveting in this film particularly. And Paul Rossi, I don't know how to pronounce his name. He's amazing, and yeah, it's just, this is such a good film. But anyway, we've talked about it before, so I won't keep going. But it is wonderful. My number 6, I feel very strongly about this unconventional choice, and I love that it's an unconventional choice. Birds of Prey.
Yeah, I dig it.
I loved it. I loved it so much. This was actually my number 1 film for a really, really long time. Wow. And, I saw it. It was one of the last films I saw in the theaters, and I loved it. I loved its commentary on misogyny and sexism. I loved its female camaraderie. I loved its energy. I loved the beautiful cinematography by Matthew Libatique. I loved Kathy Ann's direction. There's so many things that are working in this film. And this, for me, was such a great balance of sheer joy and frenetic energy, and yet also making a commentary on societal issues, which I kind of love when the marrying of those, worlds happen. So I love this.
It's a great mix of all of those things. And I agree with you. The camaraderie is just, it's when you think about superhero movies and you think about what you want out of a comic book movie, I think there's nothing better than that fight scene where they're all kind of teamed up and they're just kicking the shit out of the bad guys, and it's just so fun to watch. It's just such a great scene. It's like when people think of like the Marvel movies, there's that Avengers shot where they're all kind of standing in a circle, kind of back to back, getting ready. And I think of this scene in Birds of Prey is just also just incredible, and it's so much fun to watch.
Yeah. I really liked Birds of Prey too. I kind of forgot that it came out in 2020, frankly.
It feels like a million years ago.
It really does. Yeah. It really does. It's like somebody had to remind me, and I won't go into politics at all, but somebody had to remind me that the impeachment was this year.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
So, I mean, good Lord, man.
I know, 2020 this year. Ugh.
I know.
But yeah, anyway. So I needed some, because most of my films are very depressing, very, very sad usually, that I love. Those are the films I gravitate towards. So this was just an injection of kind of sheer chaotic joy. And so I loved this, and I felt very comfortable with this on my list. My number 5 choice is Shirley, because I love Josephine Decker as a director. I love Elizabeth Moss, and I love that this is a weird, unconventional biopic, and I love its exploration of sanity and art and writing, and what writing can, how it can unravel you, and, just and the queer themes in this, and the destruction of a marriage or a dysfunctional marriage, and a toxic relationship and toxic people. And I loved this. I loved this on many, many levels. My number 4 choice, Evan, you'll be excited. It's The Assistant.
Nice. Yeah.
Yes. And this really could have been my number 2 or 3 or even 1, because it is also a film that I saw right before theaters closed, and it stuck with me as well. And it is sharply written. The cinematography is incredible. The editing is phenomenal. And Julia Garner, good fucking God, I love that woman. And she is giving an incredible performance that just is she's exuding so many emotions just through her body language and through her silence and through her stares. And it's absolutely phenomenal. And this is such a great film to talk about, sexual harassment and, Me Too movement and male toxicity and sexism and you name it. And this is such an incredible film. And it's a quiet film. You have to really pay attention, and I loved everything about this. It's wonderful.
Yeah, I'm glad that made your top 10 as well. It feels really, it's of the moment, right? Like it feels like it's coming along at the right time, but it's also just really sharp on its own. Like if you were able to like extricate the fact that it's like a film that it feels extremely relevant, it's still just a terrific movie on its own. Like you said, the performance.
Oh, absolutely.
The lead performance is incredible. The writing, the editing, just like everything about it is like just designed to make you. I felt when I saw the movie, I felt like I wanted to punch a hole in the wall. That's how angry I was.
Yes. Welcome to the world of women, Evan.
Yes.
This is the shit we deal with, and it sucks.
Yeah.
but no, I actually love that you had that reaction, because that is the reaction you should have coming out of this film. You know, it is supposed to be anger inducing and just frustrating, and yeah, and it Kitty Green has such an incredible eye, and I can't wait to see what other films she makes, because this is such a phenomenal piece of work. I love it so much.
Yeah, and not to co-opt too much with the tangent, but like I usually my top couple of movies are the ones that I respond the most viscerally to, like emotionally. And The Assistant, like for me, was just right up there. I just had such a strong like gut reaction to the movie and was so emotionally invested in it, and that's why it ended up being my number one movie.
I could not agree more. Yep, this is why it was high up on my list too, because and like I said, any of these at this point, they all could have been in the top spot, because I think from this point out, they're all equally brilliant and amazing. My number 3 pick is, I'm excited to talk about this because this is a film we have not covered on the show. The only one on my list that we have not. I know, I've been dying to cover it. I've been bugging you guys to watch the film all year long, and I'm so glad I finally get to talk about it now, even though it'll be brief. Kelly Reichardt's First Cow, which I have loved all year long.
Yeah.
Kelly Reichardt is one of my absolute favorite filmmakers. She is a genius. Her work is just incredible. I have described this before in writing about her work. I think her oeuvre is a masterclass on empathy. She is continually and perpetually showcasing stories of people that you don't typically see on screen. Quite often people from impoverished backgrounds, or from, the Western US, and sometimes Southern US. And this film is great and kind of different, but still very much in her wheelhouse, because it's the beautiful friendship between two men, and it's an incredibly gentle story.
Yeah,
it's
it's
soft, it's beautiful. The cinematography is always her cinematography is she's not the DP, but always the cinematography that she does with her longtime DP that they have a working relationship with. It's incredible. It's these beautiful shots of sunlight streaming, and the aspect ratio is a bit narrower, so you feel an intimacy with these characters. And it really is such a juxtaposition of these two very gentle characters who have this very tender friendship alongside this very violent world, because it's taking place in the 1800s, the mid 1800s, during kind of the push westward, and literally the first cow that's introduced into the this part of the country. And I love this film so much, and I could talk about it forever because it is just incredible. And I love John Magara's performance in this. I love Orion Lee's performance in this. And there are arguably queer undertones to their friendship. You can think of it as a very close, intimate, platonic relationship. You can think of it as a queer relationship. It's never, clear cut either way. And I kind of love that ambiguity about it. And this film is just such a tender, gentle, beautiful story about humanity. And I love it so much.
This is another movie. I've wanted to see it all year, and it just haven't gotten to it.
Can't watch everything.
I think you will like it. It's not really Not really my kind of movie. I did like it. I just didn't love it as much as everybody else. I agree with you, Megan, that it is a gentle film. It's the friendship, the central friendship is really fascinating, and I like them together, and I think they have great chemistry. And yeah, you really could read it either way. It definitely could be a close platonic friendship, or there could be, you could read it as queer. I think either way, like the film really, they don't give you a firm, direction either way. But it is nice to see some characters that you wouldn't normally see. Although I kind of chuckled to myself because I think I watched First Cow and another film. Like, I feel like during award season, it's very common to see John Majaro and things. And so it's like, I feel like you can't throw a rock during award season without hitting him in a movie.
Yeah, but I think that for me, this is his best performance that I've ever seen him in, because I don't always love him. I mean, he's a great actor, but I don't always feel compelled by him. And I think he gives an incredibly engaging and riveting performance in this. And like I said, I love that we're seeing a very tender masculinity and not a toxic masculinity from these two characters. It's extremely refreshing. And I love that. And yeah, I've seen this film a few times this year, and each time I pick up something new, and I love the loving detail that Kelly Reichardt put into this. And I've seen interviews with her on this where she's talked about like the artwork that inspired this, and she really wanted it to feel like a painting in many ways, and it does. And I just love this film. It's beautiful, and I love all of her work. Like, her work is incredible. So no surprise that her latest film is on my list, since I love her work. So my number 2 film is Never, Rarely, Sometimes, Always by Eliza Hittman, because this film, I've talked about it before on the show, so I won't spend too much time talking about it, but good God, this fucking movie gutted me, because Sydney Flanagan as the lead gives an incredible performance, and Eliza Hittman's eye for restraint and the tender moments that these two girls who are traveling, so the protagonist can get an abortion because she has to travel over state lines because she can't get one as a minor. It's just it's heartbreaking. And this year has really been a year for many abortion films, and it's not a surprise because there are so many abortion restrictions in this country. So it's not a surprise that we're seeing so many films that are reflective of that experience. And this is just an incredible piece of filmmaking and storytelling. And it's painful to watch, but it's a necessity to watch. I think every single person should see this film to experience, empathetically what so many people have to endure when they're faced with abortion restrictions. And I love that, when we often see a film about abortion, it tends to be, a white person. She is white in this. But it also tends to be a person who's not impoverished. And that is something that's different, is that she's, a poor woman, and so young woman. And so she's restricted in what she has access to healthcare wise. And so I love this film so much. It's so great.
It's a great film.
It is. And I love that it's on your list too. And my number 1 film, Chloe Zhao's Nomadland, because good God, do I love this movie.
Nice.
I love it so much. And what really it's funny because it started off at like number 7, number 8. And each day, each week, as time went on, it kept inching its way slowly up, because this is a film that, as I was writing about it, and I think I told you guys this on the show, that I was crying about it. Like crying. Like I kept having to stop typing and step away from my computer because I couldn't stop crying, because I had such a visceral emotional reaction to Fern's story, played by Frances McDormand. And it's just such an incredibly beautiful film. And I love the cinematography. I love the editing, the score. I love that score. It's beautiful. And I love the themes that she's exploring in this film, and about, financial insecurity, about travel, about not wanting to settle down, about wanting an unconventional life, kind of all of these things about what, what our country is telling people societally, kind of all these messages intertwined. And I love this film so much. I could have stayed in this world forever. I just loved it.
Cool. I mean, there are so many movies on both of your lists that I haven't seen. I feel like my list is kind of incomplete, frankly, but I got to do the best with what I got.
Oh, but I do just want to say I also have a lot of runners up, and I'm not going to say all of them. But I will say Swallow was on my top 10 for a very long time, and it really is sad. I'm saddened that it did not make my top 10 because it is a wonderful film. But yeah, I mean, there are so many others like, Ammonite, I loved. Possessor.
Oh, Possessor, yeah.
Right? The Vast of Night, which I know you guys didn't love. I loved it. The Painter and the Thief, which is my favorite documentary. Wolf Walkers, which is my favorite animated film. So good. I'm Your Woman. Da 5 Bloods, Minari, Host. So many things. There were just so many great films this year.
Yeah. Wow. You just mentioned a bunch more movies I hadn't seen.
Nice. I also want to point out, since Evan, you pointed it out, and I'm so glad you did. All of 8 out of my 10 films are women directed, and of the 2 that are not, one of them is female centric. So, yes, love the women directed, women written centric films.
Yeah.
Well, when it comes to my movies, you're going to have to tell me whether they were directed by women or not, because I can't remember.
Got it.
Most of them. But see, the thing is I usually make a point of, and Evan can back me up on this because he's read my ballots for years. I make a point of picking a female directed film as best director or best picture, and I like to get people of color in the top spot. And I just didn't see as many movies this year. Just didn't, for no other. I mean, I'm not going to get into what's going on in my life, but a lot of things are going on behind the scenes. So
lots of things.
And COVID and having 2 kids at home all the time just doesn't leave a lot of time for watching movies. So my list, I feel like, is kind of like, it's a little bit of a bummer, although I do feel that these movies all have a shot. Even if I had seen all those other movies, I think these movies would still have a shot at being in my top 10.
Fair.
But who knows? So I'll go backwards like Megan did, because I'm one of those kinds of people. Starting off at number 10, I have a documentary, Time.
Oh!
Yeah.
I love that you have Time in there.
Yeah, I always try to get at least one documentary in the top 10, and this year I have 2. But actually, one year, I can't remember which year it was, a documentary won. It was the one about the LA riots. I don't remember which year that was. But yeah, Time, I just thought was so unconventional and so... I mean, Time was a movie that really made you think about what it was in a good way. And I know that, Evan, you didn't like it the same way that Megan and I did, or if I'm remembering correctly.
Yes.
But
yes.
Yep.
Oh, and Evan did not. Yes. Sorry, I don't know why I'm answering for you, Evan.
The main character, whose name, of course, escapes me now, I just thought she was fascinating. And that I appreciated that the movie made no bones about the fact that they were all guilty of the crimes they weren't claiming, no, I didn't rob that bank. They were like, no, I robbed the bank. Just that the sentence is absurd for him to get however many years. It was 63 years or whatever. And I liked the way it was paced and how you didn't necessarily know what was going on. And I kind of felt like that lent a quality of time in prison. Who knows what's going, what day is it? I'm sure that, I've never been in prison, so I'm sure there are ways you can figure things out. But the way that time is, to use a word you used earlier, elastic, it just, you're not quite sure what's going on, what's happening, when things are. I loved it. So, but I'm not going to talk about each movie in depth, I swear. Number 9, and this comes with a caveat, of course, is Zappa, Alex Winter's documentary about Frank Zappa. This probably would have been my number 1 film, except I'm not an asshole. So because I can't for those of you listening at home, if you don't remember, I contributed to the Kickstarter campaign for this. You get a lot of swag and stuff like that. So you have to take it with a grain of salt that I like this movie so much. And also that I do really love Frank Zappa's music, which a lot of people are like, what? But I also just found it a really compelling documentary about a creative mind and how creative minds can be not pleasant, for lack of a term. Number 8, She Dies Tomorrow.
Yes.
The more I thought about that, I actually watched that, and maybe I should have watched First Cow instead. I actually watched She Dies Tomorrow a second time because I was like, is this as good as I think it is? And it was. So that made my number 8. I love movies where you're not really sure what's going on. That's and in a way that makes you think, well, it's appropriate that I don't know what's going on.
That was a film I wanted to watch a second time, and I'm really upset I didn't because I feel like it would have made it into my palette if I had, because that is a great film. So great.
And Jane Addams made it into my best supporting actress category. So anyway, number 7. This will be a surprise to you both, I bet. Rent-A-Pal.
Yeah.
Whoa! That is a surprise.
Yeah. Every time I think about that movie, I'm like, I don't like the way it chickened out at the end, but Will Wheaton carries this thing so far. Man, Wesley Crusher as the manipulative asshole, just the greatest. So,
great performance.
Yeah. Number 6, Lovers Rock, just because that's my kind of movie. Nothing happens for, in this case, a short time.
Yep. Definitely.
But it is
a Dave movie.
It is beautiful. Yeah. It is beautiful to look at, and the cast is excellent. And as far as like slices of life go, I just thought I thought it captured a moment in time that I don't know very well, but have, know a little bit of it from reading whatever. I just thought it captured a moment in time really well. Number 5, Promising Young Woman.
Nice.
Yes, promising movie. So, I've seen some people kind of shitting on Promising Young Woman lately because, like, for sexist reasons, of course, about Carey Mulligan. But so I'm not going to get into all that shit. But this is just a great movie with a horrifying ending that is probably all too realistic. Is that a good way to put it? I don't know. It's in
a way it's realistic. Yeah. In another way it's not. But yeah, no, right. I know what you mean. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I just mean the cycle of violence against women. That's basically what I mean.
God, yes. That is absolutely spot on.
Yeah. I think what you're saying is there's an emotional truth to it that is deeply ingrained in the movie.
Yeah. And this is the movie I compared it on when we talked about it the first time. I compared it to the Scarlett Johansson is an alien movie.
Under the Skin, which I love.
It's just like, now you know what it's like to be a human. You've been murdered. So, a human woman, I should say. And I'm not saying that to be funny. It's just like, this is the cycle of violence, Yeah. Mm-hmm. Number 4, this will also surprise you too, but probably not much. The Dark and the Wicked.
Wow.
Oh my God.
I did like that movie quite a bit. So
I did. Well, just this goes along with, you'll notice a theme, movies in which things are not explained to you. I just love the idea that somebody basically says in this movie is like, weird shit happens, and then weird shit happens. And I am not a big fan of Brian Bertino? Is that his name?
Yes.
The writer-director. I am not a big fan of what the film he's probably most known for, which is The Strangers. I just kind of think it's fine. It's But Mare in Ireland, for what it's worth, was my best actress of the year.
So,
interesting.
She's great in it. She's really great.
Yeah, it's a pretty dynamic performance, and it's very different from what she's done before. So I really appreciated that. Number 4, this will not surprise you at all. Anything for Jackson.
That actually does surprise me.
Oh, really? You'll note there's a lot of genre movies on my list this year. Have you noticed?
Well, we did see a lot of horror movies over the course of this year, and I think
we did.
That speaks to we got to see a lot more indie films than we typically do because of how weird things were with, movies being released. And I think that was ultimately for the better. We got to see some weirder stuff.
Yeah. Well, I kind of am reminded of when I used to write for the Santa Fe Reporter. I saw mostly low budget or indie films for the 3 or 4 years that I was their reviewer, because Santa Fe has mostly independent movie theaters. It's got, a big multiplex, but so I was seeing all kinds, more documentaries than I'd ever seen. But it was really cool this year to be like, this movie not a lot of people know about, and I get to talk about fucking anything for Jackson. Rah! So by the guy who directs Hallmark Christmas movies or whatever. So number 2, Megan, I think you'll appreciate this.
Oh, I'm excited.
Happiest Season.
I knew it was going to make it on your list.
Oh, for sure. Yes, this is yet another movie that I watched way too many times and probably could have watched Sound of Metal or, The Assistant or something else. But I loved every performance in this movie. I was talking to a friend of mine who I had recommended this to, and he hated it. And his wife hated it too. And the reason they hated it was because they hated Mackenzie Davis's character. They're like, she's such an asshole. Putting Kristen Stewart in that situation. And I'm like, that's kind of what it makes it good. It's like, I mean, how many people do you probably know who've been through something similar? I mean, Jesus Christ.
I mean, a lot of people have very strong feelings about her and think she's super unlikable and super shitty. And it's like, you know what though? But we need more messy characters who are queer, and we need more a greater diversity of coming out stories about people coming out later in life and the complications from that. So I agree with you, and I'm actually sad I didn't have it on my top 10. So I'm glad you did.
Yeah, I'm a big champion of stories about people who come out later in life, because when I was in grad school, I did a big story on, like gay men who were in their 50s and 60s. Some of them had just come out. Some of them were still in heterosexual marriages and were like, I'm never coming out. And getting these men to go on the record, and then, people being like, is gayness really a problem? When I was like pitching the story around, I'm like, are you fucking kidding me?
Jesus.
Yeah, we don't have to get into that, but
yeah. Well, I was going to say, I mean, I'm not a gay man by any means, but as a woman who came out later in life, yes, I can definitely relate to this film and definitely relate to that. So I hear you.
Yeah. And number 1.
Yes.
I'm Your Woman.
Yes.
Yes. Fucking loved it. I mean, that if you could think about a movie that is more up my alley than I'm Your Woman, I'm not sure. You've got not a lot of dialogue, people doing things, quietly in the dark, people moving surreptitiously, people not sure what's going on, no explanations for pretty much anything,
But there's a lot that happens in that film. It feels like there's too much for you.
Yeah, there is a lot that happens. But when I can't remember the character's name, but when her bodyguard, basically Cal, is it Cal?
Yes.
When he kills the old woman who lives 2 houses down, you're never sure whether she's a part of the bad dudes or the good dudes or an innocent bystander. You just never know. And I love that this movie's like, you know what? We're focusing on what's in front of us right now. And the fact that you, the audience, know the same amount as our main character. That's what I loved about that. But I will also say there are a few things that if I saw later, like if I'd seen Sylvie's Love earlier in the year, that definitely would have made my top 10.
Yeah. That was a really good one.
And Tessa Thompson would have made it into my, I don't know if she would have been my best actress, but she probably would have bumped off Evan Rachel Wood, who was my number 3 from Conjoined.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Both are good options. Tessa Thompson and Evan Rachel Wood.
Yeah. So, that's my list. So, said with weird voice.
And just so you know, at least 4, if not 5 of your films were directed by women. So.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Yes. My number 1 film was directed by a woman. So
actually, all 3 of us, our number 1 films were directed by women.
Yeah.
Woo-hoo!
Hey, there you go.
Yeah. So shove it. Anybody who says that women aren't making good movies.
Yeah, you know who you are. Oh,
sorry.
I can't believe you mentioned that on the mic. You got me all upset.
This is the common refrain from people over the course of the year. Like, oh, nothing is in my top 10 because women aren't making good movies. Like, fuck you. There's so many good movies that you should be seeing that are directed by women.
I'm glad I'm not associating with these fuckos because that would just make me so mad because every year there are amazing films by women.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to mention names or awards or whatever, but there's one award that gets under my skin this year. Anyway.
I'm
intrigued. Well, we'll talk about it off the mic. So that's my list. I think, the only thing I left out, I think, was Sylvie's Love. I really wish that I had been able to see, like I said, Sound of Metal and The Assistant. It sounds like The Assistant would like totally be my bag.
Mm-hmm. So, it totally is. Yes. Or would be.
Yeah.
So I would definitely. I kind of forgot that movie came out this year, and then I saw a trailer for it a couple weeks ago. I don't know why, and I was just like, "Oh, right, The Assistant." Didn't see it.
Yeah. I also want to point out a lot of. Well, I think your films, Dave, definitely mine. I think yours, Evan, too. I'm not sure now. We've talked about so many movies now, but a lot of directors of color on these lists too, which is awesome. So queer directors, it's great.
Steve McQueen will almost always end up in my list somehow, which is how Lovers Rock got in there, so.
No, it's a good choice. Yeah. I mean, I'm sad that I didn't see all of the Small Axe films, which I plan on watching.
Yeah.
Tomorrow, watch them all.
I saw 3 out of 5. And I know we really talked about Lovers Rock, but we haven't talked about Mangrove or, Red, White, and Blue, which I saw, and those were both great and all just chock full of things to talk about.
Yeah, he's a profoundly compelling director. I love his choices and everything I've seen of his. I'm like, yes, even fucking Shame, which is, I would say one of his lesser movies, but anyway, Steve McQueen, yay.
So, yeah, that was a lot of movies, and this was a great year for movies. I don't understand anybody who's trying to say that this wasn't, because although it was strange and we didn't get to see movies in the same way that we normally do, there certainly were plenty of great films out there to watch if you are out there and paying attention.
Oh my God, so many.
Yeah.
I mean, like we said, we easily could have done, top 20 lists, top 25, top 30. Like there's so many great movies out there.
Yeah.
Yep.
Such a great variety.
I mean, for me, when I get toward the end of the year, there's usually a couple categories in our voting that I'm struggling because I haven't felt like I've seen a ton of movies, and often that's documentaries. This year, I could do a separate top 10 of just documentaries.
Yep.
Yeah, when you start watching the low budge movies or the indies, there's just a million documentaries. So it was a good year for documentaries in that way.
Mm-hmm. So this has been a lot of fun talking about our top 10s. Do we have any parting thoughts or last minute movies that we would feel bad if we didn't say just something about?
No, I don't, but oh, wait, I did want to mention Sheila Vand in The Rental. There you go.
Oh, good performance.
Forgot to mention that. It's just good performance and a solid thriller. Not great, but solid.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Megan, how about you?
Oh my God, I have too many thoughts. I was going to say, if we're going not on our main list, but kind of off, like The Painter and the Thief was such a great documentary, and also a documentary we haven't talked about. And this is a documentary that is very, very slow. Nothing happens. Beautiful cinematography, and it is a gutting ending. And that is the documentary Gunda, which is about farm animals.
Mm-hmm.
And it is wonderful and haunting and beautiful. Such a great film. But it is completely dialogue free. It is very easy to kind of just get lost in the kind of rhythm of it, but it's very, very impactful and beautiful.
Okay.
And Wolfwalkers. Good God, that's such a good film.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful animated Celtic film, and it's wonderful. Or an Irish film on Celtic mythology, and it's just loved it. So great.
Yeah, I think if there's any that didn't end up in my top 10 that I thought was incredible, Wolfwalkers is definitely it. It's a beautiful film. It just looks so great, but also the story is just incredible and just heartwarming and just, oh man, did I really, really like that movie.
But what I also love too is the voice acting is incredible in it. It has some of the best voice acting that I've seen in animation in a really long time. It's so good. And I think the two leads are actually kids. I don't know if they are, if they just sound like kids, but if they're actually child actors, they are the best child actors because they were so good and so emotive. Yeah, I loved it. Wolfwalkers is an absolute delight. It feels like you're in a storybook. Like it's just, it's gorgeously animated, and I adored it. It's great.
Yeah.
It's so cute. Now I want to watch it again.
Yeah, me too. It was that good.
Yeah, it really was. It was. Yeah, I'm just going through my listing if anything. Oh, yeah, I could talk about a million other movies because there's so many good ones. Oh, something I will shout. No, I'm not gonna. Never mind.
Alrighty then.
No, because I was gonna talk about one, but then I was like, well, then I'd want to talk about that and that and that.
Oh, okay. So then maybe check out our Twitter feed or check out Megan's Twitter feed for some other movies that she wants to plug. We can do like an extension.
There's just so many good ones.
Yeah.
There's so many films, people.
It was a great year for movies. And even though everything else going on in the world was terrible and a dumpster fire, we can at least say that the movies were good. So good riddance, 2020. Hopefully 2021 will be a better year all around, but also be another good year for movies.
Yeah, agreed.
Here's hoping.
Yeah.
I always find that it usually is a good year for movies. You just have to know where to find them.
That's true.
Which is why we're here.
Exactly. We see them so that you don't have to. We spoiler piece them for you. It's kind of what we're all about, right?
Yeah.
Right.
So I would say that wraps things up for this episode. I want to say a huge thank you to our editor, Otto Clamor. Otto, thank you for everything that you do, making us sound good week after week. We greatly appreciate it.
Thank you, Otto.
And you can find the show anywhere you can get podcasts, but you can also find us at our website, which is just spoilerpiece.com. We are all over social media. We're on Facebook. We're at Spoilerpiece on Twitter, on Instagram, on Letterboxd, and I think we might be having a new social media account coming soon.
Ooh, we do.
Stay tuned. We will announce that soon. And if you want to get in touch with us, you want to tell us you disagree with our list or disagree with us about a movie, or if you just want to say hi, we love that too. There's a couple ways you can get in touch with us. You can email us, spoilerpiece@gmail.com, or you can give us a call
at 862-21-PEACE.
Leave us a message. We'd love to hear from you. And if you like the show, please rate and review us on your podcast platform of choice. You can go to ratethispodcast.com/spoilerpiece. That will give you some options on where to go and rate and review. We really appreciate it. It helps more people find the show. And if you really, really like the show, definitely check out our Patreon. You can go to patreon.com/spoilerpiece. You can listen to some pretty sweet exclusive audio. Like this week's exclusive audio, we talk about Godfather Coda, the death of Michael Corleone, which is the new cut of Godfather 3 that was recently released. So we talk about that, and we talk about the Godfather films. Ooh. Yeah, so that's a lot of fun. So definitely check that out. And we'd also like to say a huge thank you to our patrons.
Yes, we'd like to thank Bill Scahan, Bob Chipman, Charles Nash, Chris Wilkinson, Davida Margolin, Deirdre Crimmins, Elisa, Christopher Jensen, Max Coville, Mike, Lord of the Sith, Rory Glynn, Sean Pensionar, Shauna Harris, Shelley M. McCaskill, Shona Glasgow, and Zach Pigeon. Thank you so much, patrons. You're the best.
Thank you.
You guys rock. And listeners, you rock as well. Thanks for tuning in, for joining us, for this first show of 2021, and thank you for joining us through 2020. We appreciate your support. And my name is Evan Crean. I am co-chair of the Boston Online Film Critics Association and co-author of your 80s movie guide to better living. You can follow me on Twitter and on Letterboxd as Real Recon.
My name is Megan Kearns. I'm a contributor to Edge Media Network. I, too, am a member of the Boston Online Film Critics Association. You can follow me on Twitter at OpinionSWorld and on Instagram and Letterboxd at TheOpinionS.
And my name is Dave Riedel. I write sometimes for Salt Lake City Weekly. I am a member of the Boston Online Film Critics Association, and you can follow me on social media, Twitter, Instagram, and Letterboxd as Dave Sees Movies.
And we will see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.